get to introduce my old friend. Hello, Marty.
Hello,
Welcome.
Alex. I heard you're in the other room.
Yeah, I'm in the other room. Nice to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you too. No, I'm good, thanks.
Good.
I got lost. I got lost on the way here, but I'm good.
No, that's all right. You're here. You're here with us.
Happy days. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Hello, Marty.
Hello, Martin.
Hello, Marty.
Do we have a few friends in the room?
Yeah, we do actually.
Oh, nice. Thank you for supporting.
We have wait, who is here? Mark.
Where's Mark?
Carl. Mars.
I'm here. I'm just using a pseudonym.
Yay! Hello. Hello, Cassie. How are you? How's it? So yeah, no, some of my mates. Well, actually, some of my people who I run with at ridiculous times of the morning. So yeah.
That's so cool.
And
Thank
my coach. I hope I do a good job, coach.
Coach.
Pick me, coach. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting everyone. This is so cool. Okay, well, without further ado, Marty, I'm going to let you get to what you're absolutely amazing at. I'm probably going to join you in the other room. And while we are painting, I'm going to be asking you a few questions about the whole amount of life that I haven't seen you in. So just for context, while we're going step by step through the steps, there will be moments of pause. There's going to be moments where I'll also be like having a chit chat with Marty, and also those are times where you can ask questions. You're going to see me come out of the door behind Marty. This is going to be a really weird thing. All of our dimensions these days. And I'm going to sit on the couch next to him and yeah, just be a fly on the wall of the awesomeness this afternoon. Are you guys ready? How ready are you?
Are you ready?
Ready as ever. Okay, cool. Right, that's enough for me. Thanks, Marty.
Oh, sorry. No, don't drink that water. How's it? Okay, cool. So, welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm very excited. This is quite fun. I've been at. Maybe I should introduce myself. So I painted. I studied painting at Rhodes, where I met Alex. We lived together in our third year, pretty much. And I learned how to paint. I was one of those annoying art students who, when they were given a sculpture project, they turned it into a painting project somehow. It's just like, I want to paint. There she is. But I learned how to paint, and was quite kind of adamant and committed to realism and painting things. Hello. It's so weird. All these screens and and then I did some traveling. I hitchhiked across Canada and spent 6 months in Mexico and just painted backpackers and things and started painting murals. So I learned to go from like very small, finite, doing a lot of things with brushes that look like that, to more like spray paint and like big brushes and scale and cherry picker lifts and all those kinds of things. And I came back and I got a teaching job at Pinelands High, and then subsequently another one at Westerford, and then now I currently teach at Rondebosch Boys High School in Rondebosch. So as far as how that affects you, I am a teacher, I am a painter, and I literally paint and teach all the time. So like other than running time with Carl and Hannah and Mark. So this is what I do. It's quite fun. I'm not too serious. I'm also there's gonna be a lot of banter. I hope you like banter. It's also Sunday afternoon. A beer is gonna follow this coffee. I just need to wake up a little bit. And yeah, we're gonna have fun. and I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try. If at any stage you have any questions or you have anything that you want to share, tell me a story, read a poem. I don't know, whatever. Like, we have these microphones. Let's put them to good work. I don't want to hear my own voice all the time. If you want to stop, somebody needs to go to the loo, you know, whatever. We're gonna have a laugh. That's what we're gonna do. So now got this very advanced situation. Oh, so as far as teaching goes, so last year I had a 6-month contract with Westerford. I've become like a specialist in covering maternity leaves and sabbaticals at high schools, right? So they've been great. As a glorified professional graffiti artist, it's quite nice to stabilize yourself for 6 months. So I decided I kept getting these gigs, and this is definitely the most advanced setup that I've had as far as online painting goes. Look at that! Yo, hey, brand drop over there. This is very nice. I hope I clean my nails. Black coffee, no oat milk. Okay, cool. So we're gonna start with opening our box. I'm gonna start. Let's clear our space. I think the most important start to any creative process. Clear mind, clear space. Unless you're one of those painters who just ooh, reverb. Unless you're one of those painters who just likes crazy stuff everywhere and thrives in that environment. I used to be like that. Then I learned the art of cleanliness and discipline. It's an acquired taste.
I can actually show you what mine looks like on the other side of the room. Look at the setup.
Yo, hey, check us go. Folks are technoing, aren't you? You even techno for an answer.
Even techno for an answer.
Okay, cool. Paint and sip. I'd also just like to take a moment to dwell on the fact that this is also a really cool moment. I haven't seen Alex in so long, and we were like inseparable at university, and our lives have just gone in crazy different directions. So we're vibing. It's cool. This is fun. Thanks, Tom.
Pleasure, Marty. It's nice to have you.
Lauren, Steve. Okay. Cool. Okay. Paint and sip. Let's paint and sip. I hope you have something to sip. I hope it has alcohol in it. If you have coffee, put whiskey in it. Rebirth. Okay, so just a little bit about the concept. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but the idea of the Rebirth was I've done a series of works. I've always been interested in proteas. I love the way they burn. I know that sounds a little bit like masochistic, but it's not. The way that the leaves, petals burn and then kind of crack off. It's very textural. It's very contrasting. It creates incredible texture. Obviously, kind of from the center all the way out, the way it casts shadow. And this combination of like a cooler background with a warmer centerpiece. Or central kind of focal point. The Rebirth, the title came from the idea of Fynbos kind of needing to be burned, and how just that these fires that happened recently and the fires that we've experienced, I think we live in a place where it's quite incredible. Obviously, ecologically, we live in such an incredibly diverse, compactly diverse Fynbos space. But I think the most interesting thing about that is that rejuvenation through fire is such a characteristic thing and a beautiful analogy for our lives, that we are phoenixes, you know. We get our asses kicked by life and then we figure out how to get up, and when we get up stronger. It's great. Cool. So you've got all of your colors. track of all these things going
It's the
on.
first time you're seeing a painted zip box. Like the first time you are seeing a painted zip box.
I know, somebody said to me, they're like, so is the wine in the box or what's the story?
But not yet.
Not yet. Cool, nice canvas. Cute. Not too much, thank you kindly. Not too much to say about that. Staples, nicely stretched. Drum. One thing I found about painting, people are quite like, oh, I don't want to like hurt my canvas. I don't want to, you know, like, oh, it's so sensitive and things. They're not that sensitive. If you dent it, right? You dent a painting, just take some water, brush it on the back. When it dries, it will re-stretch the canvas. It's a nice trick. People get so stressed about that kind of stuff. Yes, it's hilarious. Why?
That's a really good tip for us because we have like 1,000 canvases and 100 of them are dented. And we're like, well, we can't fix this for somebody.
No, you literally just take water and you brush the back and it will, when it dries, it re-stretches. Okay, cool. So we've got just a little rundown on the colors. Black, only use that at the end. You can pretty much put that aside for now. This is going to be our main color combined with this. This is like a cadmium red, burnt umber. Oil painting terms. If you want to get into color, it's like a wormhole. You will never get out. It's amazing. It's amazing. Endless knowledge. It's like the Renaissance. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry if I swear as well. That might happen. So, okay.
Keep it real.
Keep it real. Okay. Burnt umber. Cadmium red. Okay, we got our yellow, which is like a mid yellow. Your cooler yellows. I mean, we kind of. I think everybody probably knows that like your warmer colors are more towards like oranges and reds. Your cooler colors are more towards greens and blues. Right? Think ocean and fire. Okay, so when we see a mid, this is like a mid yellow. This, if you were to add red, it goes a little bit more towards orange. If you were to add blue, it goes a little bit more towards green. And we talk about cooling and warming colors. So I'll do a little bit of mixing. I'll keep it pretty simple. But when we look at a blue like this, this blue has quite a lot of green in it. Okay. If it were on the other side, it would have a bit more. Ooh, I better get this right. What? Like an ultramarine would be. Yeah, this is a little bit more. So this has got like almost like a green. This is like what we call maybe like a cerulean blue. White. Cool. Is it?
I'm not.
Are you not joking?
I know. I'm not joking, but I'm definitely not an artist. And this, I learn something new every day. It's just.
They all have like really fancy names.
Yeah, they do.
Quinacridone magenta. Like really? Do we have to like try to get every letter of the alphabet into the bloody word just to like paint? Come on. Overkill. Okay, the reason I lay off black is because I feel like black kind of it's just too strong. It's good to compose your own black, right? So what you can do is if you have a blue and a brown, you can actually create your own blacks. Now, the only time that I will use black is literally for like these deep inside edges, like you can see over here. Where I really, really want to get like that three-dimensionality. Okay, so I've been working with my grade 8s and we've been talking a lot about shape, the difference between shape and form, right? Shape is a shape. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
There's another way of explaining it. It's literally a line that's joined, and a form creates dimension, right? So as soon as we give something form, we shade it, we create darkness and light. variation, and then we understand it to be something of a form. So black gives that real, like the real dark edges of things. Okay, I'm gonna stop painting now. Okay, so we're gonna start with our blue. Let's start brown. Brown. Burnt umber. What you want to do is we start with what we call a wash. Okay, our wash is to just water down our paint. And when you paint with a lot more time than the allotted time for this, you generally would do a few washes, and you can wash your painting and you build up layers. Painting's all about layers. So we're going to start with our medium brush. This one. So hold. There we go. We're going to start with our medium brush, and we're going to dip in our water, and we're going to take some of our burnt umber. Try to use the edges of your palette so that you can mix in the middle. So you're laying your paint down on the edges. Just a quick check-in. Carl, Mouse, you doing all right there?
Yes.
Crickets. Oh, you know.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start in the center and we're going to work our way out, right? So we start with our central circle. Okay, holding your brush like a pencil pretty much. And we're going to create your central circle. Oh, this coffee's giving me the shakes. Not ideal.
You made a solid circle.
What do you reckon, eh?
Yeah.
Not bad. I heard that's like a sign that you
You could have taken the bottom of your coffee mat and just put it into the center.
try.
Oh,
There we go. Yeah, come, let's stay focused here. We've got outlines to do. Otherwise, we're going to be here till midnight. Okay, cool. So, just put your image in front of you, okay? The picture that we're working from. Put it in front of you, and I'm literally just going to work from this. So I'm going to work from the inside out, and I'm going to draw this first petal starting from the top, and I'll kind of go around in a clockwise direction. Okay. Remember, there's actually no right or wrong in this situation. It's literally burnt. It's a burnt flower, and they all burn differently. So even I will add some kind of nuances and kind of make it a little bit more exciting, because I actually don't want to paint the same painting twice. Let's be honest.
I like watching people paint like ASMR.
Hmm?
Super therapeutic.
Yeah. How's everybody doing, man? Can we get a hoorah or what? How's it? Sorry, it's very quiet out there. I'm like, am I just talking to myself?
Going well, thank you.
Good. Fantastic.
Marty, how do you paint so thin lines?
Water.
Yeah, I'm not good at that part.
So I'm not painting like this, right? I'm painting
This
like
is like all I've got to.
okay? That's great.
I think I made purple somewhere there.
So you can use any kind of darker color, right? If you look at your manual, you'll see that I will, when we get to doing our first wash, which is our first application of color, we wanted those darker lines to come through, right? So we want to use quite a dark color for our first step, just so that we know, we're like getting our bearings, drawing out our little roadmap here. Okay, I honestly think this is a little bit too big. Also, the nice thing about paint is that nothing's permanent. Anything can be painted over. Except when you get oil paint on your clothes. Not about. Yeah.
Jeez, man.
So you can kind of put your hand down and kind of base it, or you can lift it up. I think the thing is just don't be scared. Find that kind of confidence in your stroke, and back yourself. I don't know why you're not painting. Come get involved. It's not too late. Do it. Do. Actually, I'm yeah, 100%. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Hey, what fun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So you can kind of add these just little ones in the gaps. You just want to fill that circle. Give it some texture, give it some life, give it your own little creative flair. Don't worry about whether you think it's good or not. That's pretty much irrelevant at this stage of the game. I do want a beer, please. But I think Nick's bringing beers. Oh, so I have this is quite a special moment. So I did this collaboration with a friend of mine, Nick Walker, who makes Spill House beer, right? Small microbrewery. We went to school together, and I did a commission for him a while ago of a whale. And he asked me if I can do a special edition painting for Father's Day. So I did two paintings of kids' hands interacting with their father's hands. And I took a high definition photograph of it, and he's now printed them as labels. So we're doing a special edition beers. So it's a one with a dark background, which for his dark ale, and then one with a lighter background for the lager. And those beers are being dropped off. So that's what I'm going to be sipping after this Castle Light. Cheers.
Really great idea. Well done. Really
Thanks.
great.
Thanks.
Really cool. Like that very much.
Okay, so how's everybody doing on their central things? Can I see, please? Very excited.
The circle in a circle, Marty.
Carl, it's a masterpiece already, boy.
That's Jenna's kitty one as my professional one.
100%. Love it. It's great. It's good.
I cheated a bit before we started. I put it down on a grid so that I could follow what I was doing.
Your way? Oh my good. That's great. Mark, can you just make sure that you fill the circle, right? We want it to be there is a level of okay, cool, let's make that central circle central and nicely round, and then let's get a kind of a concentric consistency. I know you like big words, my boy, so concentric consistency. I'll put my hat back on now that I've realized this is like that. Relaxed. Okay. Is everybody cool? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
When I move on to the outer layer, I need to keep up with my own thing that I've done here. Otherwise, I'm going to confuse the hell out of people.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna read the full outline, right? So from the book, just while you wrap that stage up, it says step 1, full outline. Starting off with a dark color. Here we use burnt umber or dark brown to map out where the bird protea sits on the canvas. By doing this, we use less paint when filling in the background. Okay, you get that idea? So we do that, so you don't do the whole background. That's kind of a graffiti trick because a lot of spray paint's expensive. Put it that way. We can always work the edges of the protea back and expand it once we have painted the protea. This can be done loosely. Note, the burnt protea leaves are all different shapes and sizes. I picked a particular image in this case, but you're welcome to find your own sources and look at how you see the edges, shadows, and highlights. Okay, cool. So, just on that last note, if you would like to, at some stage, at a later stage or whatever, you can go and find an image. Or I can maybe find the original image that I worked from this one. And then we can distribute that, and you can kind of work in the detail when it's not such a rushed and intensive Sunday afternoon. You know? So not a rushed and intensive Sunday afternoon. It's like literally the only thing that's going on in my brain is, should I sip my coffee or should I sip my beer?
And not to put your brush in either.
And make sure your brush is clean. Make sure your brush is clean.
Yes, clean brushes.
No excuses.
I've got my brushes. I'm ready to paint.
Carl, no weakness.
Marty, Carl's wearing a shirt.
A shirt? What are you? Oh yeah, but it's date day, isn't it?
Just like you.
Lovely. Okay, cool. Cool by the pool. All right, so I'm going to go in and now I'm going to start doing the top bit, the outside petals, and just kind of a similar thing, blocking them in, trying to fill the majority of the composition as best we can. And remember that the burnt protea, can you pull up a picture of a burnt protea on my phone, just so I can show it at the camera? And it's a couple of things I want to just explain in terms of like textural nuances and things. So the burnt proteas themselves, they're very like brittle. You know, they're kind of like if you break a piece off, it like snaps off. And it's just quite an interesting thing to think about how that almost that consistency translates into paint. Because you can like, paint is very transcendent of itself. Like, no, I don't know where I was going with that, sorry. Let me here. Okay. What?
Zoom keeper. I was hoping I could share the screen and then we would have 2 screen shares happening. Zoom's not very good.
Yeah, I'd love to see what everyone's painting as they're painting. It's showed.
I'm an artist, but
Yeah. You know that thing like I'm a poet and I didn't even know it?
yeah.
Like, that's it. Welcome. It's great. These things are not scary. You just like that's what's so great about doing this paint and sip. It's like it's so kind of playful. You know, when we don't put pressure on things, then we get to like do them, you know, and just play. So here's a great picture of the protea. You know, see that? Oh, buffering. Okay, so here's a picture. This light's not good.
That's okay if you keep it in the middle of.
Okay, there you go. So there you can see like how, you know, jagged and kind of edgy and how kind of ooh, there's it. Sharp. Nice one. And kind of how textured when we look at all of those edges, it just creates a really fun thing to paint, actually, because you can put lights and darks. If you know basically almost the anatomy of the flower, you can put the lights and darks vaguely in the right places, and the rest of the time you can just kind of like smash paint wherever, and it'll work somehow. So like, don't stress, you know.
I said you'll have like that as well.
You'll have a plant. Plants are weird. Keep it weird. Okay, so I think the biggest thing, and the biggest thing that I've tried to instill in my students is that people perceive art making to be so prescient, and it really doesn't have to be, you know. It's like when I've played a lot around with collage, and collage, the origins of collage is very much based in like the subconscious and just kind of letting things flow out. And the same thing happens when we're on the telephone and we're doodling, you know. We just make stuff. We're naturally made to make stuff. We're created to create. And I think that's why it makes us so happy. And like chills us out, you know, like breathing.
Yeah,
you breathe well, you're generally going to be more chilled. Nasal breathing, always.
Yes.
Not analyzing anything when you're creating. You just like keeping, you know, present to what you're doing.
100%.
You're not thinking about the people are thinking about you, getting stuck in your own narrative and space. You're just doing, and that's also like really cool.
So it's,
I also worry about the people who aren't breathing. Someone should help them.
yeah, breathing is essential.
Please breathe, everyone.
So, as you can see, I'm kind of creating quite a bit more texture in this new one as I have in the last one. That's kind of me just trying to, I guess, take it an extra step. You can simplify and or not simplify in as far as you want. I'm just trying to keep myself, that kind of challenge myself to make something better.
Oh my god, I'm painting, speed painting here.
I want to see what you're doing. No, you're smashing it. But it's not in the middle.
It's okay, it's fine. I'm not like a type everything,
Yeah, no,
safety type of person. That's a total lie. I'm totally that person.
Yeah, 100%. Don't you like run a whole situation?
Yeah,
You're an entrepreneur. What are you talking about? I'm not a type.
No, I'm totally a type. I'm that. But I'm just trying to like, you know, I'm just trying to be proud of my work there, man.
I'm a big fan of your work, genuinely. Okay, cool. So like these ones are very interesting. There's a lot of you find a lot of these on the burnt proteins where they kind of break off almost square at the end. So make sure you include some of those. And some pointy ones. And you can see how fun this is going to be when we start looking at how to shade all of this. There's all the breaks and the cracks and it's just so much texture, and you can like go as in as you want, you know. You can literally spend another 2 hours after this 2 hours just playing. If you want, I mean, or you can go like watch the sunset because it's quite like a day. Such a day. Who said they were in PE?
To be outdoors today.
Janine.
Hey, Janine. How's PE?
It's beautiful today. It's about 26 degrees outside. We've got that same heat wave that you guys have got. And yesterday it was like 17. So it's strange. Strange weather, but it was very cold this morning. It was about 3 degrees this morning.
What? Doesn't even get 3 degrees in PE.
Yes, my husband went to play golf in Hankey. Now, if you know what Grahamstown's cold weather is like, then you'll remember how cold it was. Then Hankey's about as cold as that.
Grahamstown was deep.
Yeah, it was cold.
Very cold. Very cold.
get that
Cool.
like crust on your car, and you get, walk
And
outside.
frozen pipes.
Your nose feels like it's about to shatter.
Frost on your face.
Very cool.
Cool. So as I said, like the same with the central circle. On the outer circle, you can kind of add. When I painted this initially, I felt it was very unweighted, or imbalanced. Sorry. And like here, for instance, is like a nice place to just add something so that you feel like you've got a kind of a consistency in this concentric thing. I don't know how many of you have seen my work, but I'm like pretty obsessed with circles. I like shapes. A lot of my work's been influenced by like psych rock album covers from the 70s, and there's a lot of like sacred geometry stuff. Not in like a super hippie sense, more like a
hog stack.
not like let's try some mushrooms kind of vibe,
No, but it's a good shape to be obsessed with.
Totally.
Like if you want to, like, holistically speaking.
Yeah. Yes.
You can even have
Very
cycles, right?
Yeah. 100%. Okay, cool. I'm done. Okay, so next step. We're going to take our blue. 1 times canister of blue. So I get that little bit of red out of there.
Go, baby. Don't rush.
Word. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a wash in the background, right? A wash is a preliminary layer that's not completely opaque, more transparent. We'll know the difference between transparent and opaque, I hope.
No, please tell us.
What?
Tell me.
Opaque is something you can't see through, right? I can't see it now because my hand is opaque, right? But if I take a piece of cling wrap and I hold it like that, that's transparent. I can see through it. It's glass, whatever. Right? Opaque, generally. Someone's laughing at me. Don't be laughing.
Okay, stay vulnerable.
Stay vulnerable.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Be in touch with yourself.
Courage,
More over there, and then you're sweet.
commitment, and
What?
connection.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to, what I mean by transparent is we're just going to water our paint down. So you're going to take a nice big blotch of blue, a blotch, okay? And we're going to take a nice little bit of water, and we're going to start, as you can see on this one, we're going to start with a bit of blues on the outside. It's going to kind of transition into, there's a bit of, into like a central column of blue. So there's a central column of blue, there's blue on either side. And then what we'll do is we'll work white into the in-betweens and kind of fade it out. So I'll show you how to do a gradient. So if you want to like paint a sunset, for instance, and you want to do kind of a little bit of a little sticky of sun, and then you want to have like orange and pinks and stuff, and then you can translate it and it transfers into like a blue, and then it goes into like a dark, and then you can put a couple of stars in there, and then somebody might buy it for $1 million because you're going to be a great painter soon.
Of course. You doesn't have all of them over there.
Okay, cool. So wash. As you can see, it's quite transparent, right? And what we'll do is we'll do a couple of layers of this.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can put points on this plate. We're adding a lot of
Did you mix white with it?
You can, if you'd like to.
Yeah.
So what white will do is it makes it more opaque. What, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about this when I was driving here. I was like, should we do washes? Because we don't have like that much time. As far as paintings go, like paintings don't generally take 2 hours. I'm going to be very honest with you. The masters took like 100,000 years to make a painting, 150 days. or 7 years to make a painting. So, you know,
But yours looks so much more.
You put water in it.
Mine's blue, 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 blue.
You don't put water.
So you can start with the darker. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll track that. Let's start on the edge, and we're not going to water it down, and you can see the difference and see if that works works better for you.
I'm also using a much darker blue than what Marti's using.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
watered mine. And mine's blue, 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 blue.
Yeah, so that's.
But is it not the ultramarine blue? There's 2 different blues. There might be 2 different blues. Yeah, you got the ultramarine blue.
You maybe have the
Okay,
same
cool.
I have, which is fine. It's
Perfect.
It's all good.
be a
It's
little
just a
bit,
different blue.
you know,
It's all good, baby, baby.
I love your energy.
With the mask. Mouse. Jenna the mouse. She's the boss.
You think I am?
Okay, cool. So as far as like stroke goes, it's a lot easier to cover ground on your painting when it's watered down. The paint flows a lot easier. But what you want to do is when we start to blend, and now what you can do is maybe just start getting the hang of it, is just holding your brush a little further up and going from side to side. And then you can kind of slowly work your way along using the long end, and slowly just fill in the gaps so that you create along the negative the outside part of the outline. All right? Negative space, yes. And if you take some of your dark blue and you mix in some white, you can start to create that transition. When you see with this transition,
Slow down.
okay?
Oh, sorry, nothing.
I thought you said slow down.
No.
So when you start mixing in your white into your blue, now your white, you can kind of bring your blue into your white. This is how I mix my paint. I tend to put a dark on the other side of my palette, and then I mix it into light towards myself. So that's very technical.
if you have too much white,
If you're going down, no. I mean, the painting's white, so as it is, so there's not really such a thing. What you'll find is that this blue is very transparent, so you can see the canvas through, and as soon as you start to add the white, it becomes a lot more opaque, which is quite interesting, because some colors are naturally transparent and some colors are naturally opaque. I don't know what it is, but this stuff is just like the white is thicker and able to cover the canvas more. So slowly just create that transition. Sorry if I'm painting a bit fast. Have it. So you can see as you stroke from side to side that you can create a really clean transition. And you can use this, like, I know, like, a friend of mine went through like a Pinterest phase recently, and he wanted to create like an ombre wall in his thing, and he was like, dude, can you come paint an ombre wall? And I was like, I'm not painting an ombre wall, sorry. But you can paint your own damn ombre wall, bro. So, you know, get the colors and then just take your brush and paint from side to side. From one, paint in a block up top, paint the block down below, and you literally stroke those two until you create a transition of color. And if you're struggling to get it, it's a good idea to just add a little bit of water, man, and you will find that the transition becomes a lot easier.
What?
Oh, you see that? If your brown's still a little bit wet, you might get over to
Not brown.
Isn't it? Oh, really? Yeah, it's all happening. Should I chug this one and get involved?
We haven't gone anything off yet.
Oh, yeah, it's early for that. 100%. Okay, cool. So now we're starting to get our transition, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go from white and we're going to go back into dark, right? And our central line, which is about here, is going to be again dark. What we'll do is we'll do that. I'll do it once, and then we'll repeat the process. These paintings are like layers. My paintings like layers. And you'll find that once you've done that twice, this kind of transition from deep blue through light to white, through back to deep blue, white, deep blue, then you will find that it is quite clear how the layering process creates that opacity. Okay. And if you still have a little bit of white on your brush, when you're trying to paint this, you'll find that it actually white really.
Very cool.
Yes.
There's art on our beer cans today.
That's Marty's art.
What?
These are my paintings.
That is so cool.
That's amazing.
Yes. All I can say is my buddy's gonna be stoked.
That is amazing.
It's cool, eh?
Perfect.
What's the story behind it?
So Nick and I I painted this whale commission for him, and it was like a lifesaver. I was in a dark space at the time, and he was just like, come paint this painting for me. I'm really excited to have one of your paintings. And then we started creating a bit of a working relationship, and he was like, I want to pull you on board I do a lot of like brands. I mean, for years I've worked like with brands and done all the like that like classic you've got a following, you know, do this and activate this and whatever. So I did an activation with CBC back in the day, and then 2018, and then he saw that and he was like, yo, we should activate this for us. He's a mate, like just a children, he knows how to make a really good beer. And a bit of a businessman. So he was like, okay, cool, let's see if we can do that. And we just came up with the idea we were going to do portraits. And I was just like, who, you know? Like, I don't want to paint Madiba. Like, I don't want to paint Oliver Tambo. But I also don't want to paint some like random white dude. Like I'm just not, you know, let's keep it just general.
Yeah.
So we chose 2 images of like kids' hands interacting and used that as a conceptual basis. And then this is the dark lager. Can I get the other one, please?
Yes. Gosh, that's incredible. This is like so nice.
And then this is the light lager. So
That's so cool.
can I turn this thing down?
So, very cool.
Okay, so that is the light lager.
Yeah.
Or not a light lager, it's a lager. And they're just oil paintings. They're maybe like quadruple the size as this. And this one is a Marzen lager, so it's like a darker thing. So background. We printed this, and we're just doing it as a special edition, a little bit of a experiment. And I just said to him, I was like, it's been my life goal to be endorsed by a beer. So, like, I'm into that. I'll make as many paintings as you want. Just keep the beers coming. I like beer. I'm not a big drinker, but I'm like a consistent 1 or 2 beers in the evening kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, great. So, cheers. The art and the possibilities and life and all things bright and wonderful.
Must we carry on going down until the end with the blue? Hello.
Yeah, keep going. If I stop painting, don't worry, I'll catch up. So you're going light, dark, light, dark. So blue, white, blue, white, blue. Just look at your original. So let's have a little recap. On the original, it's cropped, so you can't see the blue behind it. There's blue here and here. Right? Cool. So, just a thought. If you do want to get some of these, they are. I think he sent me the link to order. You can order them through Takealot or something. That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. And you get like a little commission for every.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing passive income.
Totally. It's
Wow.
cool. It's fun. And then I think we can auction the original paintings. They're like,
I'm so happy.
yay big.
That makes me so happy.
Well, if we get the link from Marty, we will send it to you guys so you can help support him and grab a few of their beers.
Oh yeah, you can do that in
Drink to
detail.
support.
That's an angel speaking, by the way. Wait. The angel of organization and pragmatism.
Yeah, no, she really is.
You can use all of this.
Without the Lauren, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah, no, look, she's helping me sort my life out. Really made for a coffee. Guys, so when you have a dirty brush,
Your life.
just a brush with paint on it, blue brush dips the blue brush into the white, and oh crap, there's blue paint in the white paint. Not a vibe. Not cool. Cool. So don't do that. Don't make that foolish mistake.
Because then Lauren has to go to each and every one. Well, no, it doesn't apply with this. With yours, never mind. I'm getting sucked into 2 different worlds: the in-person painting tip, which we do, and the virtual. But in the in-person, everyone does that, and then Lauren has to go through 200 little paint pots and scrape out everyone's paint.
No ways. That's
It's terrible.
deep admin.
It's terrible. Shit's her pet peeve. So,
So I'd advise you to use 2 different brushes actually in this process.
but it would be nicer for you.
If you have the bigger one, the smaller one, you can actually. Oh, you guys only have 1 big brush, eh? Am I right?
Yeah, one big one, one medium.
Cool. So you must just be consistent with just cleaning your brush, please. Okay. Cool. So now, getting down into getting those whites down. Don't worry if it's not white or if it's like not whatever. It's really it's to your taste. Remember, this is your painting, eh? Like nobody's out here to impress me. I am just.
He's easily impressed.
Very easily impressed, very excitable, easily excitable, and also drinking beers. So don't stress.
Yeah. He's collected.
This is gonna turn into like a full-on Sunday bride. Oh, you Sunday brides!
We could.
That was such a thing. Yeah.
At the studio.
Yeah,
Remember
the studio.
us?
Yeah, we used to the house that we used to live in was called the studio.
Yeah.
How cool is that? It's like fortuitous.
Yeah. It's fortuitous. Sorry, I giggle a lot. You can hardly hear what I'm saying through my giggle.
All fierce.
All clear. Yeah, all clear.
Okay, so just as I said, like it's the brush itself is an amazing tool. But the way that you use it, just in terms of how you apply the paint, or your internet connection is unstable, mate.
Oh,
Just in terms of how you apply your brush. So if you stroking like this, okay, or if you want to work an outline, work outside an outline, and just use the chisel of the brush, kind of carve that outline out, or you want to make lines. It's just amazing ways of using these brushes. Are actually quite versatile. But these transitions, yes, this is the kind of stuff that makes me happy in life. So does somebody want to tell me a story or what? Tell us a story.
what did everyone do this weekend? Did
Yeah.
someone do something really cool? Experience something new, listen to a new podcast, watch a Netflix series, read a new book.
Sounds very indoorsy.
Well,
What about
if you were outside, what did you do?
what about base jumping?
Did anybody skydive this weekend? What did I do? I spent time with my folks yesterday. That was always so nice. It's always nice to go back and play. We played poker for the first time in a really long time. It was very, very cool. My dad's intensely competitive. He gets really upset if you play badly. No.
No, hectic. I played so much poker in lockdown.
Online.
Hectic. No, in person. Three of us lived. We rented a house in Elands Bay and lived together, and just played poker and surfed and drive. It was great. We could kind of run off.
That's so nice.
I'm teaching online.
So the online vibe was interestingly, we took a knock. We took a significant knock. Was hectic. I had
Especially like donors and
yeah, because a lot of the stuff that we do is in person, social gathering. So we bring corporate teams out, international internships. That's actually how we leverage the support.
yeah.
And the day that the announcement happened, we did one of the biggest in-person paint and sip debates at the Aria. I think there was like 180 people.
What?
And
You're so glad there's 180 people on this call.
it was really intense. And we were washing paintbrushes, actually. The announcement happened. And I cried for like 4 days after, because I was like, that's it. That's the end of our organization. Dissolved.
No, man, that's so
I'm not the only one. There was millions of us in the same boat. Millions of us that were in a lot worse boats,
Totally.
So we're fortunate, too blessed to be stressed. And have you guys to thank. You guys and so many others.
Yeah.
For keeping
180 people. Yes, who ran that one?
Lily. I must introduce you to Lily. She's beautiful.
She sounds like a star.
She paints in wine.
They come out fall in love or what?
You guys, you're paint. Oh, well, she is getting married.
Oh.
So try and.
Oh, no.
I'm just joking. I'm not even going to finish my speech. But she's beautiful, and most people that come to our regular paints and sips know Lily well, because she features a lot. Yeah.
So look out for Lily.
Lily Brannan Art.
Lily Brannan. Oh yeah, she did the eye.
Yes.
Yeah, it was quite cool.
Yeah. And she paints in wine. In wine.
She paints in wine.
Yeah.
Like as in.
Uses red wine as the medium. Much like watercolor, there's layering involved and stuff.
Okay, cool. So when you get to, I guess, these parts are where you can really, like, on either side, obviously on the sides, you're kind of filling it in with kind of a bit more stop-start. But what I want you to challenge yourself with when you're painting in on the bottom area, the top area, is really to like find your stroke. Because when you find your stroke and you add white as you go up, you can really, really create that transition. Remember, it's just a little bit of white and a little bit of water, and then just create that transition going up. And you can work your way up, and then you work your way down, and you can just see, like you can see how that it's not coming.
You can see it unfold.
Well, you can see how the transition happens as you add white and you add water. It's great.
Did mine look differently? What do you think? I have a more light middle.
Yeah. Can I get a little show of what's going on out there? Yes, Alex, look at you. Hey.
Do you think it's cool? Lekker.
Lekker. Cool.
I didn't have
You didn't.
do the dark in the middle. What was the dark in the middle?
No, we'll get there.
You must do it so you can see.
I don't know what I did.
We did your own thing a little bit, but you were also playing catch up, which is tough.
I went rogue. What was that?
Okay, so my feedback on that is what you maybe want to do is just expand it so that it covers more of the canvas.
Okay.
And then if you go here, so I'm just going to come.
Hi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So just my feedback on Alex's is what we'll do is we'll do a second coat of this, because what we want to do is we want to get a little bit more contrast in the background. So we want this blue to be a bit darker at the edges, and then this kind of light blue to be like, we want to get that white in the middle. And then I would say it's just a little bit more, just fill it to balance it out so that you get that nice concentric circle action. You get that circle, then you get that circle, then you get that circle.
Okay.
And fill those areas. I mean, it's by choice, but I think you want that. You want it to have that feeling of like
harmony.
Harmony. Hey, look at you dropping principles of art bombs.
It also features in life. Okay, right.
Yeah. My problem is I think I might get a bit lit by the time this ends. Don't let the teacher get you.
It doesn't matter if like my pixels now has blue in them.
What?
When I put in pixels, it's gonna have blue in the middle. Will that matter?
No.
No.
So if you'd like to, if you've painted blue and white and things around the outside, as you've done now, you're kind of maybe getting to where I am, sort of, and you think, okay, cool, I want to add another petal, right? So you go back to kind of where you started with your smaller brush, and you're like, hey, this little space here, for instance, really needs a petal. Just add it in. That's cool. No big deal. Remember, we're going to paint over this. And remember what I said, like it's not, nothing's permanent. So I'm just, for the sake of teaching, I'm going to come in here and just kind of refresh my outlines so I know where everything sits. And then I'm going to add 2 petals just so that you can see that it's doable, and then those I will then we will color those in the next phase. Step 3, I think it is. Okay. That was a big sigh, eh?
Nice.
Tough times.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's good. breathe. Breathe it out.
Breathe. Whatever you're doing, breathing is important.
Breathe is important.
I'm happy with myself. That's why.
100%.
That's
That's great.
Like, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty good say. So just to reiterate, is everybody sipping something, or am I the only one drinking right now?
No. I have an idea. I want to try one of more beers, though.
Mark, do you drink beer, bro?
I'm guessing mine.
Attaboy.
I don't actually drink beer that often, but every time I do, I'm like,
No, but you know what? I've been hanging out with these running people, and they're all like, "Oh, carbs." I'm like, bro, take away my beers, I'm gonna be pissed.
I only drink beer on a Sunday though.
then
Attaboy.
aren't you supposed to like have a lot of carbs to keep you guys like going? Isn't it your fuel? I would agree with you. I love my bread, but I mean, I don't.
Okay, see, my palate's now getting quite messy. So at some stage, and maybe what we can do is take the other half of the paper and create a bit of a new updated palette situation. But just this is such a nice part of the process. It's just transitions, kind of fun. It doesn't have to be anything. I think that's the beautiful part about it, is that like right now there's nothing to kind of like prove in the painting. Not that there ever really is. But I must say, sometimes you just paint and it's like, cool, I want to create a really great painting. And sometimes when you make a living from paintings, you get someone who comes to you and you say, this is a photo of me. And you paint it. You go, yes, it's probably a good idea for me to take this off this commission. And then you have to paint that photo. And you have to make them look like them. And generally, those people also might be a bit insecure. So if you paint them to look either older or overweight or like whatever, they get like really bummed with you, like really bummed. And then it doesn't work. Okay, cool. So now we should have I need to like remind myself that I'm actually hosting this thing sometimes. So now we should have some nice transitions. Try be not like me and make like a nice band in the middle that's like consistent across, because mine's like
Go to the sides.
okay. Now I've created a little bit of harmony and balance. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to darken. The nice thing about these acrylics, they dry quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my edges and I want to create a little bit of darkness and really get that transition from the light here into that darkness, so that the dark blue, when people say navy blue is not a thing. It doesn't exist. It's a rumor, right?
I love navy blue.
Yeah, but you're a fashionista. It's like navy blue in clothes. It's like it's either ultramarine or it's like something else, right? Sorry, the word, you have to use the right term. I get a lot of flack for being like from my students for being like a hard ass when it comes to like using the right words, right? So when you talk about harmony and dynamism and perspective, shape, form, dimension, all of these things, I literally will give them a mark every time they say a word like that. I'll be like, the perspective in this drawing, I don't really care what is, but they're related to the perspective. There's a mark. Sweet. Well done. It's so cool. It's literally like the easiest trick, and then they get to a trick. They write their essay. It has every terminology that you know. The external assessor marks it, and he's just like, "How can I not give this 100%?" And I'm just like, "High five, shot."
That's amazing.
Get involved. Get on the train or get off the train. Okay, so now I'm creating that darkness in the middle. Yeah, if any of you have kids and they do art, tell them to use the right terminology and they'll do well in the theory stuff at least. Okay. My work is done. Well, those nachos are real, eh? Can you just get lots of this action going on? Because Nick is going to be so amped about this story. Can't believe he came and delivered beers. What a legend.
I can't believe I collected beers while we're working for Painting 6. It's a very different day today. Do you want another one, Colvin?
No, there's two. There's two. I haven't even got to the second one. Maybe this one should go to the fridge. Lauren, you are like that's
Legend. Legend.
Unreal. Okay, cool. So, seeing as we're speaking about terminology, when we talk about, we're going to learn some fundamentals here. You know what I'm saying? So, when we talk about transitions, another word for transition is a value, like a value spectrum, right? So, a value in art is light to dark, right? What we commonly see is like contrast. So heightened value is heightened contrast. If I'm getting it right, maybe don't quote me on that one. But this is a light value and this is a dark value. Okay? So we're working from a light value to dark value to light value. And where we like to create contrast, if you look at a really successful work, generally, maybe like, say for instance, a portrait in charcoal, where you'll find that it's effective and where you really see like depth and that they really captured it is where there's a high level of value. So your highlights are really light and your dark shadows are really dark. Okay? So here, for instance, if you're looking at this here, beer, let me see the beer. I don't want to tilt it too much and put beer everywhere. But like there, for instance, it's really quite dark. Oh, that area there, or like on the walking stick. Now that highlight wouldn't be, that depth that's created in the finger wouldn't be as light. It wouldn't make as much sense if that highlight wasn't so contrast with the darkness there. Okay, I'm going to shut up because you guys need to pay. Also, we were talking about Jordan Peterson. If you ever want to know rad things about art, I never thought I'd say this, but he has a 12-minute talk called "Why is Art Important?" I was mind blown when I watched this. Like the way that this guy talks about art in history and it being related so intricately to human perception of beauty, and beauty being something that is transcendent, that we need to kind of that is the thing that we seek in life. Euphoria, eudaimonia, whatever. It's all has to do with trying to find beauty. And that might be in music, or it might be in art, or whatever. It might be in architecture, it might be in partnership, whatever. But the way that he explains the connection between art and beauty, and how it's a connection essentially with our source, with God, with the universe. Yeah, I was just like, nah, bro, this guy needs like a Nobel Peace Prize for this. Check it out, check it out. I'll share a link. Nah, bro.
I'll find the link. I can
Find the link.
Okay.
Good, cool. Should we have a drying recess? I think everybody. Just want to make sure everybody's like up to speed here.
How is it? Where's everyone at in terms of your steps?
How are we doing the time? Okay.
Let's see everyone's painting so that we can see where you're at and
What time is it? Yeah.
let's see. Okay, so Kyle, you've got to find a nice.
Should we give everyone a chance to turn their outfits around?
That's looking so great.
Oh,
Nice one.
nice.
Gee, awesome. Nice.
Lovely.
Mark,
I see that you
love
put
that.
those on the side. You've got that
Cool.
beautiful contrast.
I love that
gradient.
composition. Who's that at the bottom?
Lovely. The Galaxy tab.
Yeah.
I think that's Debbie. Is that you, Debbie?
I'm not sure. I can't see all the screens, so
No, what's your name? Sorry.
I'm Debbie.
Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
That's right. Hi, Debbie.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
I can't do things in the middle.
Nice.
It looks
Or
great. I love that
I choose
composition.
not to do them.
Good. Thanks. Thanks for not following the rules. I so appreciate that. All right.
He doesn't like chili sauce, does he? Ah, what's it in?
Okay, so next thing we're going to do, burnt umber, aka brown, cadmium red, aka red, and we're going to just put it at the top of our palette like that. Have a nice dip. All right. What we're going to do with this one is we are going to use a little bit of water. We're going to mix them together, and we're going to create our base layer for our flower. Okay? So in terms of our step-by-step, we've now done our outlines, we've done our background using horizontal strokes, and now what's called washing in. Okay? So I'm just going to read from this thing. In the middle, we paint a wash, or the first coat of the protea using burnt sienna, created from burnt umber and red. Burnt sienna is like a warm brown, essentially. Okay, which is what we're mixing here. Okay, using your big brush, cover the whole protea area in brown from the middle outwards. As you can see, you want your outlines to be darker so that you can see them through the wash. No paintings ever look good at this stage. Now we have our foundations and the fun can begin. I thought the fun began a long time ago. Really, what are you talking about? Okay, this process is quite fast and quite simple and not too skill dependent. So you literally are going to cover your whole protea with a watered down brown and red.
Water down.
Watered down. So use your water, and this way we map out our things, the space that we are painting in a way that still leaves the outlines, but allows us to figure out where the edges are and what it is that we are actually, how much of the canvas we're actually covering within our outlines. Should all be with that, sorry. I know, right? That's what I was thinking about. This is being recorded.
We'll send it to you.
I'm gonna spend a lot. I'm gonna drink beer and then watch it, and that's gonna be fun as well.
Turn yourself into
No, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just because it's cool because you can kind of send it to people now. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's what stays on our platforms and people can like have their own parties at home if you want to party forever.
Sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. So this part of the process is pretty. You're kind of just filling in. You know, you call it a wash. What comes after a wash is like a block-in. So we'll get to that. The wash is literally just covering ground, and then the block-in is where we start to differentiate light from dark. And the different kind of areas of color. Amazing when you really press your brush down how much ground it covers.
Okay, so we are just going with this color all over.
All
Doesn't
over.
matter.
It's literally just one color doing a wash all over the protea space. Which means we've now differentiated our foreground from our background, or our main positive space from our negative space.
I don't know why I don't do this more often. Insane, actually.
No, keeps me alive.
We've been doing this painting for how many years now? 2? 8. 7.
We've been doing this for 7 years.
Or 6 years. About 6 years, yeah. And I think I've painted a whole of 4 times.
No, man.
So bad. There's behind the scenes. But it's actually so nice to just immerse yourself in it because now I get a better sense of what everyone else is experiencing.
It's important. Cool. So the part that you maybe want to focus on in this part of the process is just defining those outlines. So you might find that there's some white areas around that are not really, you don't really want them to be there. So you're kind of going around the edges using your brush at different angles to just fill in those spaces.
This concentration part.
Yeah. Cool. Done.
This whole
Oh.
I think I'm okay.
Now the most important thing is that this needs to dry.
Your flat dance.
Do your flat dance. Let's do a good flat dance. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Yay. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
We don't need music.
We don't.
Probably best if I needed like 4 minutes.
But we could like totally sing for you.
No offense to your singing, I just don't know if I'll hear.
It's dreadful.
It's really something
I
else.
feel like there's such a high level of concentration going on up there. Is everybody having fun?
Yo!
Yes, this is awesome. I'm loving this painting with everyone. This collective creativity. It's a vibe.
He's got these.
So it's hot.
Oh, it's fucking really good, man.
Mark, have you got paint on your hand yet?
You got paint on your hand, Marty.
Mark.
Mark.
Mark!
Mark's on mute.
Yes. What you say?
You got paint on your hand?
I don't have any.
No, boy. I've got paint on my hand.
Oh, I do actually.
I think it wouldn't be like true art if you didn't have paint all over your body at some point.
No. 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 I'd die. Let's see yours.
I've had to give up my OCD for today.
Me too. You and me both.
Yes, guys.
Yeah, well done, everybody. Big steps, eh?
It is big steps. It is. I'm like most quality control freak. I can meet it. Ask the team.
I just saw this. This is the best thing I've probably ever seen in my whole life. Smile in an apron.
Oh, nice. That's the best. Nice, Kyle. You look the part.
Let up, we.
When you get irritated about
Please keep it. Please make sure you guys keep it in zone 2. Oh my. That is great. Okay, shall we move on?
I think I'm ready. I mean, I'm really thinking.
Not ready. Okay.
But I think
Good. Okay, so in our original, right, important thing about light and dark and shadow and highlights and all that stuff is to identify where your light source comes from, right? So your light comes from somewhere, as you can see on my face, the light's coming from here. Oh, that's a lie. Wait, no, it's because it's skewed because I have this thing on me. But okay, so my light's coming from here, right? So it's casting shadows this way. So this part of my neck's lighter than this part of my neck, blah, blah, blah. On this piece, the light is coming in from this side, okay? So I'm essentially going to recreate that. As you can see, it's falling on the outer edges here, casting a shadow that way, which means that if we look at the round central piece, the stigma, what's the starts with a P. Anyway, so on this side we're gonna have the shadow, and on this side we're gonna have the highlight. The pollination station. So what we're gonna do now is I'm just gonna read you through this section, what we call blocking in. So the dark block in. The block-in stage is where we lay down the opaque foundations of the light and dark on a painting. Okay, getting an idea of what our foundation colors are. It's where the paint becomes more opaque, not transparent, and takes on real form. Using the edges of our brushes, define the edges and shadow areas of the protea. You should see the central leaves coming forward, as in creating dimension. The depth is created through shadow. By blocking in the shadows, we can see where the lighter block-in should occur. Okay, so you can see on this one, we're going to be aiming to create a darker, looking at darker areas. So, take a look at your original here. You've all got this. I know it looks horrible. It doesn't look very good in this because this thing's a bit bright. Just turn it down a bit. And we're going to follow the lead on the darker areas. So for the darker areas, we're going to use just this burnt umber, right? So we're using this. Don't worry about water at this stage. I'd say take a nice big dollop of dark, take it on thick thick and fast and start to block in your darks. Okay, so follow the leader. All right, let's go. Cool.
You have to copy him.
So now it starts to feel like you're making marks of consequence here. But don't stress, eh? Don't stress. All very gentle. Okay, and you can use your brush, you can flip it around. Play with your brush. Let it kind of like play with the angles. Look at how you identify with making marks. Mark making is critical. Maybe if you'd like to, you can start in the middle and just get that kind of like roundness. All right, get that roundness. You can obviously also change your brush, go for something a bit smaller if you want to be a little bit more pedantic about it. Mark.
This is the noisiest entree ever. Just saying.
So funny. Okay, so you can tell by the angle of the leaves that, you know, the further it goes out, the more the light hits them. So on these internal areas, they obviously kind of dip inwards like this. So they will be darker. You don't have to be too wary of your lines at this stage. You are, in a way, in the same way as drawing an outline, is you are defining form. As I said, you can just mix your brushes up. Is everybody with me on this one?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually just like literally copying you.
No, I know. This is kind of the part where I need to like check myself a little bit more.
Oh shit.
Yeah, oh shit.
Oh no, what happened?
What did you do?
No, nothing. I just didn't know how to copy you.
No, you don't. You don't. I mean, you can, like, you can, because I guess.
Oh no, don't worry. I'm just doing that because that's what makes me feel comfortable with. Like, please. Creative license is what this is all about.
Find your creative voice.
Mm-hmm.
But you get the general idea of what we're doing here, at least. And you can go back. You can see how quickly this paint dries. You can almost go back and start to darken even more the areas where you start darkening. So I'm focusing on this side because this is where the shadows are cast the most.
This is definitely more onerous now.
Yeah, there's a little bit more of a sense of like, ooh, I could mess this up. But the best thing you can do is just accept that and go, yeah, cool, whatever. It's not a negative feeling. It's just like, okay, cool. We're kind of really embarking now on starting to resolve our communication of the image. Also remember to breathe. I know it's tough, but like breathing and tuning into yourself, tuning into your breathing, staying present. All those yoga things, really helps.
The fact that I've always found fascinating about artists is that they can see like color and tone and shadows more than someone who isn't an art. You know, like what colors are supposed to go for and how and which shadows to cast on what. That's like very high.
That's technical. Something we don't understand. But we appreciate it.
I appreciate. Okay, so I've kind of got to the point now where I've blocked in a lot of my darks on this right hand side. There's a lot less darks on the left hand side, I feel, because that's where the light's coming from. But there's still some light, some darks on the edges. Also, you can create your own textures. As I said before, feel free to kind of like pull up a picture of a bird protea. There's heaps of them on the interwebs. And you can just keep an eye on it and look at the different kind of textures that you'd like to create to make it your own, because it's your painting. Really? What have the other ones been like?
No, they've been cool. They've been cool, but this will maybe different for me because they're sometimes in another room. So I'm feeling already a little bit disconnected to what's actually happening in the room. But being here with you is better because I can respond, like I can see what's happening. It's just, there is something being in person.
Yeah.
Like you just this virtual space, as much as it's amazing and it allows us to be able to do these cool things in the safety of our own homes and a bit far away, you just can't
Yeah, but yeah, it's cool because there's 4 of us here and we kind of get to hang out as much as we all staring at our own screens.
it's the weird way of the world.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Wow, it's sign of the times.
So maybe a cool way of also doing it is like what I've realized I've been doing without thinking about it is kind of working around clockwise and like almost starting at the top and then finding those dark areas and just kind of working my way around, moving my brush, creating the angles, working outwards, making my way through the darkness. Also, if you create an even spread of paint on your brush, and you almost tilt your brush from the side like this, you can create lines that have gradients in themselves almost. So you see that edge gives you a very nice clean edge, and then it almost gradients out, that fades out into this light. And this is why I speak so often about mark making, because utilizing your brush to create interesting marks is actually something that is a very undervalued skill. I tend to think that brush work is just like just piling it on, but the intricacies of the movement of the brush and the sizes and the different shapes and different brushes that you get. If you go to Deckle Edge now, there's like hundreds of different brushes. Some are like furry, there's like those chiseled ones that I was telling you about. They're very nice because if you use a chisel brush, like this one, okay, I pull a line down like that. If I have a chisel brush, when I pull that line, it's only from the tip. Literally gives me that. And I'll end up actually getting absolutely incredibly fine lines with the chisel brush. So, FYI, you know.
Can you use a chisel brush and like details and stuff the same way you'd use a plastic brush?
Yes.
Or would you want like a combination then of the two?
I mean, it's a matter of taste, really. Like, really depends. But I just like the chisel brush for what it gives you in terms of you feel like you have a lot more control. This one you have to tilt it a lot to get that like fine line, right? So that you can be painting from that edge there. You have to kind of like
Give a hand swivel.
yeah, swivel your wrist. Whereas the chisel brush is shaped like that, so you can like kind of keep your hand that way, and the paint will only run onto the canvas from that point without you having to do too much. It's a different level of control, but it's like intricacies, you know. That's getting really technical. Okay, I'm ready for that idea. Thanks. Cool. So dark tones are in. How's everybody doing out there?
Good.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, yours looks lovely, Marty. I think
How's a bit of sharing is caring? Man?
sometimes I have to like really step back. I look like I've just outlined everything. Like a bit of a. I've just outlined. She's busy.
Isn't it? It's cool.
Excuse me. Hi, I do.
The working it comes in. So you've got to see it in like stages, right? So there's background, wash, which is the starting foundation stuff. And then the kind of mid-phase foundational stuff is what we're doing now. The dark tone block-in, the highlight block-in. By block-in, I'm like literally just putting blocks of that color down. And then we start to get a little bit more nuance, right? Then we start to kind of look at like, oh, how is that little leaf shaped? Where is the light kind of hitting it? How is that edge? How is the edge on this one picking up the light from the light coming this way, but how is the shadow being cast by these two petals here? So we start getting a little bit more complicated. Kind of when it starts getting fun. Get to try round 2 here.
So can I see everybody else's? It's also quite nice for like while you're painting to see.
Yeah, I wish you all had cameras on yours, so I could give you like running feedback.
Just so that you can kind of see where everyone's at.
Nice! 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 Guys, this is so cool! Davey, that's looking amazing. Yo, you're on the highlights already. You like
so good.
Davey's a couple of steps ahead of me. That's great.
I haven't thought with highlighting it.
Haven't you?
No. My initial wash was just very light, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. Perfect. Happy days. Okay. Now, when I was going to look at the. Let me just finish this.
Tortilla chips for the win.
Tortilla chips for the win, Jimmy. Okay, cool. So, light blocking. As the textbook says, block in the lighter areas with some white mixed with yellow and red. Making a color somewhere between a peach and a pink. The white areas. The white paint increases the opacity of the paint. As you add layers, your painting will show more opacity, depth, and then finally detail. Okay, cool. So, your light areas, where you see them already, are essentially the areas that are sticking through as washes, right? So these areas that you haven't darkened, obviously you've done dark, now you're going to do light. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure with a clean brush, we're going to do a white with a bit of yellow and a little bit of red, a kind of a peachy color. Make it peachy. And then, so I'm going to just lay these down on the outside, the outer skirts of my page. So I've got my three colors there. I'm going to leave this in. So we'll see what's going on. There's it.
Red and
A
yellow.
little bit of the sun coming in. What a fun. Okay, clean brush for the win. Give it a little dab.
And then red.
Whatever you do, don't spill paint on your laptop.
Has that happened? Okay.
Has it happened?
No, I'm asking right now. Like,
Happens
did you
all the
just do that?
time. Happens all the time. Okay, so remember, our lights are going to define a lot now. Okay, so all of these edges here, all of these areas we're going to define with our light. Okay, so let's mix it up. Take some white as our base. We don't need water at this stage. Not with okay, wow, that's quite pink. Okay, let's bring it back. Let's get some white in there. Let's get a little bit more yellow. And you can just kind of continue to mix this. Mix it. Add more.
Peach.
Make it as you want. It's kind of like an orangey, like a crustacean-y kind of color, you know? Like a prawn.
Not too pink, you said.
You can chuck a little bit of brown in there if you like, but not a lot. No, actually, I lied. Don't put that much brown in, please. Really gonna counter that. But good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alright, so now we're gonna block in our lights. Everybody ready? And go.
No.
Okay, red, yellow, white. Red, yellow, white. Okay? Now, if you're looking at the original, you can see, like here, looking at the original, you can see where the lights have been blocked in. So, literally just following what the image tells you. Okay.
You can't see the painting, Marty.
Oh. Sorry. Is anybody like incredibly lost?
That's yeah, silence is good.
Silent. I think silence is a win, eh?
I mean, I can.
Mark, are you winning there?
Yeah. I feel like you pulled ahead in the shading here.
What?
I might not be able to catch up.
No, man. This is not the point. I'm not trying to. This is not a race from my side.
Yeah, fair enough. But mine didn't come out like a painting after that step.
No, man. Show me what's going on. Come, let's chat.
Come on, Marky Mark.
I think the lights
You
like
go, boy.
that was the problem.
I'm loving this banter and this camaraderie here. Everyone just helping each other out and support it.
Shall we do?
That's
Don't worry, mine's also kind of like the shading's kind of all over the show. I'm just hoping that something.
If you okay, damage control time. If you feel like your darks you're not making sense of where the darks and the shadows and everything are, then really focus on where you want to put your highlights. So look at each and every one of your petals. Don't worry too much about this color. It's just like it's something. It's like a yellowy pink. It's whatever it is. But really look at these petals and go, okay, each and every petal, I'm going to concentrate on creating this shape. And I swear, if you just focus on the outlines and the fill and creating a little bit of detail, just in some of these little lines, and you literally are just separating the light from the dark, you're going to already start to see amazing results.
This color is the color of spur sauce.
Yeah, spur sauce color, Thousand Islands.
Yes.
Now everyone knows.
Yeah, now everybody knows. What did I say? Peach, crustacean. It's got very expressive.
Spur sauce.
Spur sauce color.
Yo, I could go for spur.
Yeah, me too.
Should we go for spur later?
This is not one person's against that.
I think we deserve spur after this.
I think we do. Anyone, if you want to join, we're going
Guys,
to
we're going to spur. If anybody's in town, we're going to spur.
Everyone go to different spurs and send us photos.
That would be.
No, I think how epic would it be to have like a pretty epic, like a solid meetup afterwards, like we're just like a after party. Yes, I love an after party, man. Always the best party. But the curfews cut our after parties pretty short now, eh?
The curfew's changed in the top now.
The curfew's changed everything. I would not be a part of this running crew if the curfew wasn't there, because I would probably be
Thank you, Cyril.
later.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay, so what you'll find is you start kind of looking at it going like, wow, it's pretty stark, eh? Like it's quite light and quite dark, and don't worry, we're going to sort that out. It's a process. I hope nobody's in a rush, because paintings take a while. No, we said 2 to 4. It's already probably 4.
It's 4:15.
Really? Oops.
We do tell people we generally host until 5 o'clock. So
Actually, to be honest, I've never ever hosted when we've had a 5.
Really?
we get expressive when we talk a lot between the artist and myself and Alex.
I think our latest was 6 or 7.
Really?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if that's
I just hope nobody made other plans, because those plans ain't going nowhere.
You're welcome to go to your plan.
We're not holding you hostage. Marty would like to clarify that on behalf of Agent Sipley.
I mean, we are recording this. This is going on YouTube. You can access this anytime, but that doesn't mean you can leave us now.
Yeah, but then you can't add to the band.
You got to stick with us here. We're all in this together.
That's me. So what I found now is I'm adding a little bit more red and a little bit more yellow to the white on the outside, just to differentiate it. And it's just kind of creating a little bit more darkness, a little bit more richness to the color. I'm also getting some sunlight on this now, so it's looking, it's a little bit difficult to see. Can we make it blind?
Marty must make a peach now.
Sorry, what?
Must all the red go peach?
Must all the red go peach? What do you mean?
It's all the red of the flowers going.
Yes. Yes. So you're essentially filling in those light areas, which were the wash, your background color. You're essentially filling those in with this kind of orangey peach color. Right?
It's bringing it to life.
You good?
Yes.
Whatever happens, don't stress.
Whatever happens,
I'm
happens.
just thinking of spur now, thanks.
It is bringing it to life, isn't it?
It's totally bringing it to life. We're creating dimension. That's what we're doing.
It's so cool.
We're creating dimension. And it's nice. It's nice when you break it down into just like simple phases, little chapters. Get to understand how this is working. Shame, guys having a hard time, man. Not working.
Never take your behind the scenes group for granted.
Yeah, they like hooking up blankets to try to make blinds. It's all happening. You know, there's guacamole.
Oh gosh, whenever there's a vibe, there's always a background crew.
Unreal. No, really though. I'm serious. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So do any of you guys run, man?
I run.
I run away from my problems and I jump to conclusions. That's pretty much my only form of exercise.
I don't know why you're not part of mine, so
Got a strong drinking arm though, so
Got a strong drinking arm.
take it however you like. For me,
Run.
it's a
I like
success.
to run.
Yeah? Where do you live?
In Belleville, Magic Forest, the wrong area.
You guys should run to each other.
There's a place called Magic Forest in Belleville. Are you serious?
There it is. No, that's
That's amazing.
Magic Forest.
yeah.
I don't know why they called it that. Maybe they speak some, I don't know, kind of transformative, tricky stuff happened there in the past. But
Yeah, it's like the home of South Africa's psilocybin sauce.
yes. Oh, exactly.
Oh, look, it's a painting. Lovely.
Yeah, yours looks hectic compared to mine.
No, you guys just keep on keeping on. So as you can see, what I've done is I've started to just add a little bit more of like an orange. I guess just adding a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow, and you can kind of start to look at the painting now and start to look at the original and start to kind of make it your own in a way. You know, the light blocking from this stage to what I call transitions. Which is essentially just the transitions, start to create transitions, as you can see there in your center if you look at your booklet. Starting to create transitions from dark to light, so that it's not so like stark, like, oh, it's dark and then it's light, you know? You don't want it, just keep it, you know, keep the transitions are crucial, let's put it that way. So you can start to create that. And how I've chosen to do it is just to start to add a bit more warmth. Okay, like here. I don't know if this is really doing any justice, but there's. You can see this.
You can definitely see the
You
contrast.
can kind of see the difference, right? So we want to create more subtle translations from the dark into the light. Okay, cool. So, how are we doing? Essentially, what we're going to start doing now is we're going to start looking. Okay, cool. Now we put in our light areas. Now we're really going to start looking at this image and going, okay. This this is a good time to just look at the screen. I'm gonna kind of go through pretty much from here on out. We're looking at what it is we have here, and we're going, okay, cool. I want to work on the outline. I want to give a bit of the central line and some darkness. I want to include particular shadows. I want to maybe bring in a little bit of black towards where the bottom of the petal is. And I want to just kind of give it depth. I want to give it a bit of perspective, not perspective, that's not the right word, but give it a little bit of depth and give it some shadows and highlights in the right places so that it looks naturalistic. I don't want to say realistic because it's not going to be realistic. I don't want to paint realistically. I want to paint naturalistically, so it's an interpretation of a reality. Now, what you can do, particularly for this, is you can start with going back and going, okay, I'm going to block in the darker areas around the petal, where my brush is here. I'm going to use a smaller brush just so it's a little bit more particular. So around here, I'm going to put in some darker areas. That will bring this petal forward. Okay. Then, as you can see on the outer edges, we've got some white highlights over here, and we can create some white highlights. We can do some dark here at the bottom of the petal. We can bring those lines up, and then we can create the transitions from brown paint and red paint into the yellow, orange, white. So essentially, all we're going to be doing for the rest of the time is going from dark here and here and creating transitions outwards towards light. Okay? Is everybody with me?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're going to go from dark and we're creating transitions outwards towards light. So brown to more of like a red to more of like an orange that we have here, and then at the edges we're going to be doing like a little white highlights like that. Okay, so what you can do maybe is just take a couple of minutes. I think, can we zoom this thing in? Take that as a no.
Stevie!
Hold on, let me get
I'm going to see if I can create a little zoom, not zoom, this zoom, like zoom in, and then do just paint a few, and you can see essentially what it is that I'm talking about. I'll walk you through it, just so there's a bit more like direct instruction, and then you can kind of run as you wish. Can we zoom this thing, please?
Closer to the picture.
Close to the picture, yeah. Let me centralize. The setup is mind-bending. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take my big brush and my medium brush, and what I'll do is I'm actually going to start with the center, right? So I'm going to start with the center. I'm going to put my pick back in front of me. Like that. Okay, everybody ready to rock and roll? So, dark tones, right? Little bit of black is nice. Little bit of black. Bring that black on. Let's add a little bit of this thing, bit of burnt umber, and then we can start to create the form in the center, right? So we're throwing those deep dark shadows in. Oops, I just spat on my painting. Creating those deep dark shadows. Okay, so you're getting that nice round.
Yeah, it's got tomato in it. Good tomato with it. Okay.
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 Okay. And then remember, it's black to brown to red. Okay. So slowly I start bringing more red into my brown. And it's almost like I can do that outer layer, then I can do one in from that. Then I'm going back to my orange or my kind of peach, and I'm creating a transition from that. Maybe I'll come in with a little bit of just a nice little yellow here. Start to bring in a little bit more white, and we start to paint. Now you see how much warmer it gets when we add that yellow. Okay, now we've got like a spectrum. Okay, and you can start to see now we've got dimension, right? We've got a shadow, we've got a highlight space, and we can make sense that this is not a flat thing. It's a round dome. All right. When that's dry, I'm not going to wait for it to dry because I feel like I have your attention now, which is fantastic. When it's dry, what you're going to do is you're going to come back and you're going to come in with white. And you can create or really add that highlight in there. And that's going to give you an incredible sense of depth. Alright, so now we've done our central piece. Cool. I'm going to move on to the petals. I'm just going to do one petal and then I think we should all get back to painting. Start with a bit of black, work around. I'm going to do this petal here. What I want to do is I want to go in, I want to define the petal. Okay? A little bit of water just to loosen it up. I want to define the petal. I'm going to work that around. I want to create my outline. It's not necessary to do this, but I like to create the outline just because outside here is going to be dark, right? And then it's really just about creating transitions. So here's our brown, same thing. So you're going brown, red, yellow, white. Brown, red, peach. You can literally just block this in as you go. Feel it out. It doesn't have to be right. There's no such thing as right at this stage of the game. It's really just about feeling it out and looking, really looking at what it is that you're painting and looking at the original image and going, hey, I want to make this my own. I want to make this look naturalistic, but I also want to make it expressive and interesting. Okay. So, there we go. All of a sudden, we've got ourselves a little bit of a petal. It's not exactly like this one. This one's quite, definitely doesn't have as much yellow in it. If I want to dull the yellow, I'll just dirty brushes, not a draw. If I want to dull the yellow, I'll literally just come in with a bit of white. Oh, no, don't put in yellow if you're going to dull your yellow. Bit of white. And we just tone that yellow down. We've got ourselves a petal. And then we can slowly start to move our way around that, and then, yeah, you can work it as much as you want. So maybe for now, just do it quite simply, and then you can kind of take it as far as you want, either later or in the session or after or whatever. It's up to you. Has anybody got any questions?
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling a bit more confident, you can use a big brush. And if you'd like to, it's really nice to just water things down. If you want a little bit less, like if you want to create opacity, just water it down like this.
This is not black at all.
I don't know if you can see this.
The black is
Watch.
too much to do everything. So I'm just making that line.
So you can see how using a watered down brown like this can just create that level of depth. Really make it look like these petals are like going out like this. So you want to create this effect. So you can paint outwardly, almost in your brush strokes like this.
Please like it.
What?
It looks amazing.
What color is this on my finger?
Yeah.
I'm just feeling there.
Okay, and now we can just paint. Great. Now it's really like the fundamental stuff is all in place, and you can just kind of run with it. And just let me know if you want some feedback or how it is you feel. And
Yeah, sure.
What question
when I talk about transitions in the book, I'm referring to just adding a little bit of like watered down paint between the dark and the light. So you can see here, this is a good example here. If I add like watered down paint, what it does is it takes, there's dark, there's light, and then there's a transition. You can see how it just makes it a little bit more gradual. I don't know if it's it is the right way. And I think really try to find your confidence in this process, because it's a really fun thing. You kind of find a rhythm, and you just don't hold on too tight to what you want it to look like. Let the paint flow. So it's starting to come alive now.
Nosy.
Hallelujah.
Nosy.
I do encourage you to kind of go around in circles. It really is quite cathartic. You might notice that when you add yellow, like this orange, this red, and this yellow are totally your best friends right now. In this stage, like warming this whole thing, the warmth in contrast to the cools of the background, because white is a cool color by nature. And the blues, obviously there's still blue in the white, no matter how white it is. You really want to focus on getting those oranges. It's such a good transition color, is to get those oranges between your white, your lights and your darks. They will create the best transitions for you, and just soften everything and warm it up. And you can see how I'm kind of working it back into these dark spaces here. This is quite watered down, what I've pulled together here. This one, but it's a little bit watered down, so it's not very opaque. It's kind of creating what we call a glaze. In painting, we talk about a glaze. And a glaze is something that the old masters used to use to kind of create subtle definitions in how we like faces and in portraits particularly. It's very interesting because the next stage is almost like going back. We go back to where we were 2 stages ago. When we go in and we go, okay, cool. Now we look at it and we go, okay, cool. Where do the darker areas become darker and where do the lighter areas become lighter? And then we're done. So it's really a matter of like, it becomes more and more about fine tuning. It becomes more and more about creating variation in contrast. And then you, through that, you kind of create that feeling of naturalism, where you can kind of perceive it to be a burnt protea, because essentially you're just taking an image and translating its form in different material. Oh, but this red from the central circle is just so nice. Look at that.
You really have the beautiful heat spots.
Yeah. That's the thing. You kind of want to warm it up, because this stage, right? Where it's cold. This stage is kind of bland, like it's kind of like it's dead, in a way. But
Yeah.
it's blocked out and just it has no character. And then when you start to bring in these warms and cools and these what's, it's a lot more interesting. Happy days. Okay, cool. So painting, right?
I just think I did a masterpiece though.
So now that we started to create our transitions and our differentiation, what we're going to do is we're going to start putting in the highlights, and we're going to start putting in the deep, dark tones, shadows, and then we're done. So essentially you come in with the highlights, look at what I've done here, but this is the time, and I say this in this last piece, is step 8. Now it's getting those textures and nuances. You can get this by looking at a photo of a burnt protea, just to see how the protea has burnt and what the edges look like. This will give you an idea of all the textures, small shadows, outlines, etc. Feel free to add, reshape any of the existing leaves. This is the moment to make it your own original piece. Remember, each protea burns differently and there's a lot of texture to work with. Really look for those darks and lights. It may be time to bring just a little bit of black into your burnt umber. Resolve the central pistil. Nailed it. A pistil. With finer textures and heighten your contrast. So your contrast is what's going to make this thing like pop from the canvas. Okay, make sure your edges are nice and clean, and a shadow is optional. You can see on my original I did a shadow. It wasn't very successful, to be honest. You don't really have to do it, but worth a crack. And please remember to sign your work. So I'd say right now it's just about kind of getting those highlights. This is the part of painting that I absolutely love. Is just like kind of coming in and being like, I'm just gonna spend some time making this look fabulous. These little brushes are great. Get your small brush out, indulge in some detail, and you're essentially just going to, you can just take it and kind of hold it a little bit more like a pen, almost. And you can kind of come in and do, well, it's kind of come in and you can do those outlines. So the beautiful thing about painting is that when you create a light area, it will contrast whatever it is that's next to it. Or even if you create a color area, it will contrast what's next to it. So that's what, when we talk about complementary colors, if we put a red next to a green, for instance, you know your complementary colors, which not many people actually do. You realize that if I put a red next to green, it like almost creates a dynamic that is completely different to if I put any other color next to that green, because they complement each other. Like it's like a scientific way that your brain processes color, in that certain colors just work together. They are just they visually complement each other in terms of how they are interpreted by our sight. Same thing with light and dark. So as soon as I put this light highlight on this outer edge, it pops this forward from the darkness behind it. So that's what contrast does. Contrast is fun, and this is a fun part of painting, especially with these bright, not bright, like kind of small brushes, but you can get these sharp little highlights that really give it a lot of these petals, a lot of detail, and to make them interesting. I kind of get to the point where I stop looking at the original and just kind of start to try to remember what this thing looks like. Almost like use your memory, use your mind's eye. And I use that technique in a lot of kind of drawing exercises with the younger grades that I teach, is trying to find a balance between observation from an image, observation from life, and then imagination or mind's eye or memory, where they have to go through different processes, like trying to figure things out for themselves, because everybody's so amped on copying pictures, so it's actually not very good for your creative brain. It's just like, when I said like the masters, they'd spend years and years on painting. Like we can't even, that Jordan Peterson interview that I was talking about, that he put the link on. He was talking about the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, and he was like, they planned that to happen over 300 years. He's like, only creative people would think, hey, let's plan a project for 300 years. Because the modern society that, like, especially in kind of corporate world, you can't think further than like what is the next kind of forecast or trend or monthly or what's like quarterly objectives and things like that. So that's what he says, is like just the scale of time and intention in that day, particularly within the creative Gaudi in his drawings. Oh, it just makes such a nice crustacean over here. A nice brown color.
Lovely.
Can't do this time pressure. Carry on.
Alex and Marty, I need to drop off this call. I've been trying to stay here for as long as I can.
Thank you
But
so much.
I've got hungry piranhas circling the food bowl, and I've been called for
That's fine. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, and that painting looks wonderful. Can we get a last look at your painting before you duck out?
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's amazing!
Need some more work? Need some more work?
Incredible.
I'll sneak back after supper with my glass of wine. Okay, guys.
Please, send us pics or post it online or do whatever you got to do. But love to see the final pic. Please.
Will do. Have you got a hashtag, Alex?
We do. It's Paint and Sip ZA.
Got it.
Marty McFly. And Marty McFly.
Like back to the future.
Bye, boy.
Alright, guys. Thank you. It was lovely to meet you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you so much, That was fun.
Bye. Bye. Ciao. You guys are nearly there. It's like the final touch.
Stretch. Stretch. Okay, guys. I think we give it a few more minutes and wrap up.
And when we wrap up, I need to do a little group photo vibe. So mentally prepare for that.
What?
Yeah, it's fine.
You too, Ma.
Yeah, you're in, bro.
You're in.
That is true. So these little white edges are quite fun and nice to kind of create these areas of highlights are amazing. They really bring things alive. It's like a trick you learn if you paint graffiti is a white outline and a dark background. You can make any piece go from being really crap to quite nice actually. And it's like actually a bit of a trick. If you're not having if you're not really liking what you're doing, you just put a white outline around it, and it'll just look that much better. So just remember that, in your future painting careers. Okay, so anything I've left out? I think the last thing is just to kind of go around in a circle and like clean up the outlines a little bit. If there's any like splodges or just paint that doesn't really look like it's intentional, I go around and just resolve it. And then, I'm good. Okay, I'm gonna sign this thing. I don't know how you guys are doing out there, but
And on behalf of Cultivate, I also just want to say
we're not.
Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for being here. And today was really one of my favorite virtual paint and sips. Woo! It was really cool, and it was so intimate, but it was amazing. I wouldn't have it any other way. Well done, guys. You all have kind of a flower. Mine's just like crazy. Like it's just like boom. Lots of black, lots of yellow and red. It's like flames. People are ready for a group photo, Marty?
Just another reminder as well, guys, if anyone is looking to give back in a different way, not just doing this awesome artwork. We are having so many volunteer days coming up. We've got a huge Mandela Day project. We've got a Heritage Day project. We're running street stores for the homeless. We're painting classrooms for the underserved primary school in Tembani. Guys, there are so many opportunities. We've got the Agadi Club. We don't just do paint and sip. We do so many other things. And if you're all interested in getting involved, please, please, please check us out. And we would love to have you involved in our community and to help the community as South Africa. So, yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, if you
Nelson Mandela Day. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. I've had a couple of people reach out to me recently, just saying like, I want to do something. I want to do something. I don't know where to start. I want to like work. I want to volunteer. I want to like put my skills to use. I want to like do something as an extra thing. You know, take a every second Saturday, go like give back to the community. And I've kind of put. I mean, quite recently had one or two people kind of contact me like that. Just say like straight up, like, hey, we contact these characters. It's okay, they know what's going on. They've got a bunch of shit. They've got a bunch of shit, and they need help. So like, get involved.
Contact us characters.
Alrighty. Okay,
cool.
we're gonna do this group photo.
We're doing a group photo. So, can we stop sharing? Your piece is beautiful. Nice one.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, so let's stop sharing.
What do we shoot? What?
That's
my cue.
That's your cue. Thank you. That's happening. Sorry. Hang on.
Oh.
Mark, I'm planning this for you, bro, for your office.
Happening. Hang on, something is happening. I've been taking millions. All right, one more time. One, it's just not making any sound. I don't have my sound on. 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm taking so many. Nice. Well done, guys.
Nice one, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a happy Sunday. Enjoy your beautiful humans.